Hello, everyone. You are listening to Uncomfortable Truths with Euclid Phoenix, where I talk about politics, religion, and other BS that I find interesting. Today, we will take a look at social democrat versus democratic socialist versus socialist. Let's clear up something that gets mixed up all the time. What is the difference between a social democrat, a democratic socialist, and a socialist? Because depending on who you ask, they're either basically the same thing or completely different. The truth, they overlap, but they're not the same. Here's the easiest way to understand it. It all comes down to one question. Who should control the economy? Private businesses, the government, or workers themselves? Let's break it down. Social democrat. A social democrat still believes in capitalism. That's important. Private business exists. Markets still function. People can still build wealth. But they don't think capitalism should be left alone. Instead, they want strong regulations, social safety nets, programs like universal health care, education, and worker protections. Think of countries like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Capitalism is still there, it's just heavily managed. A social democrat says capitalism works, but it needs guardrails. Democratic socialist. Now we move one step further. A democratic socialist is more skeptical of capitalism itself. They don't just want to regulate it, they want to replace parts of it. But, and this is the key, they want to do it democratically. No revolutions. No forced takeovers. Instead, voting, policy changes, gradual transformation. They often support things like public ownership of key industries, worker cooperatives, reducing the role of large corporations. Simple summary. A democratic socialist says capitalism has deep problems. We should move beyond it, but through democracy. Socialist. Now we get to socialism in the more traditional sense. At its core, socialism means the means of production, things like factory, resources, major industries, are owned collectively. This could mean the government ownership, worker ownership, or some form of shared control. The goal is to eliminate the gap between owners and workers. In theory, no ultra-wealthy elite controlling production, no exploitation through ownership. Important nuance. Now here's where it gets messy. Socialism can take different forms. Some versions are democratic. Others historically became centralized and authoritarian. That's where a lot of the controversy comes from. A socialist says the economy should be collectively owned, not controlled by private individuals. Putting it all together, let's line them up clearly. Social democrat keeps capitalism, regulates it. Democratic socialist wants to move beyond capitalism, but gradually and democratically. Socialist supports collective ownership of the economy. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people arguing about these ideas aren't even arguing about the same thing. Some are talking about better health care and worker protections. Others are talking about replacing capitalism entirely. And those are different conversations. I personally fall somewhere between social democrat and democratic socialist. I think we should wipe out homelessness and everybody have a strong government regulated healthcare system. So next time you hear someone say socialism or democratic socialism, ask the real question. What exactly do you mean by that? Because the answer can change everything. But what is the difference between socialism and communism? The simplest way to see it. Socialism equals a system about how the economy is organized. Communism a more extreme end-state version of that idea. Socialism at its core is collective ownership of the means of production. That means factories, resources, major industries owned by the public, workers, or state. Key idea: reduce or eliminate the divide between owners and workers. Important nuance: socialism is a broad category, not one single system. It can include democratic socialism, state socialism, worker co-ops. Some versions allow markets, elections, private property to a degree. What is communism? Communism, based on the ideas from Karl Marx, goes further. It's not just a system, it's an end goal. Core features of communism in theory: no private ownership of production, no social classes, no money, no state, a fully equal classless society. Here's the big distinction. Socialism is a system or stage, can exist in different forms, often still has government, some markets, some structure. Communism, the final stage in theory, a fully classless, stateless society. The uncomfortable truth: most countries people call communist weren't actually communist in the true sense. They were socialist states trying or claiming to move toward communism. Example: the Soviet Union had a strong central government, controlled industry, had classes and hierarchy. So technically, socialist system, not true communism. Side-by-side breakdown. Ownership: socialism, collective private, and communism, fully collective. Government: and socialism usually exists, communism is supposed to disappear. Classes: socialism may still exist, communism classless. Money: socialism often exists, communism supposed to disappear. Reality: exists in many forms, never fully. Socialism exists in many forms, communism never fully achieved. The key takeaway: socialism is a system people can actually implement. Communism is a theoretical end goal that hasn't truly existed. Where people get confused: people often hear that country is communist, but what they're usually seeing is a centralized socialist government. That's it for politics for today. Please check out my website in the show notes and have a wonderful day.